Hi there guys, in this video we're going to be processing some smart telescope data. So if you want to work alongside me and end up with these two images, or something that looks very similar, check the link in the description box just down below where you'll see a link to my Google Drive where I've hosted these three files for you in one download. So there's processing icons, which are these icons up here. If you drag and drop those in, they should load. You'll notice the process console lets you know that they are loaded. You can right click and arrange icons and bring them to your currently active workspace if you can't already see them. You can just do the same thing really with the fits files right here. So we'll make a start straight away. By the way, this is just my way of doing things. It is not the way to do things. So you know, just follow along, see what you think, and I'm sure it'll be worth your time. I'm going to click the image I want to work on first, which is in my case M31. Click Tile Windows and just bring everything up to an appropriate size for my screen. I've made sure the SDF is open, and I'm just going to apply a screen transfer function to both of these using the little nuke icon and clicking each one after the other. You can see there are a few problems on these, and we're just going to deal with them as we go. So first off, we're going to work on processing M31. So the biggest issue I can see is this big old gradient. It's particularly easy to see if you zoom out. You know, it makes these large scale gradients much more obvious. You can see it's a brighter bottom right, darker top left, and I'm going to get rid of that using Script, Toolbox, and GradientXpert. Really easy to get this installed into your Pixie site. I do recommend that you do it, completely free, of course. You'll notice that I did have ticked there, show background model, and that's because it can be useful to reference exactly what's been taken from your image. So this mirrors what we wanted to take out, right? That brighter bottom right, darker top left, neutralized everything up. It just confirms that it's doing what we're looking for, so I'm quite happy with that. Next step is going to be to move right into BlurXTerminator for me, so I'm just going to run this total defaults. I'll pick a nice star-filled region, and you can really see what it can do. I will say that I'm showing this probably at its worst with smart telescope data. It's typically undersampled, very short, you know, focal length stuff. If you have a high-resolution rig at home, something like BlurXTerminator is going to be able to really stretch its legs and show you what it's made of, and that's where it really shows its maximum capabilities and puts a big smile on your face. At least it does for me, but I'm sure you can see the difference it's made right there. It's made those star profiles beautiful in just one quick application. Apologies for any little pauses, by the way. I'm still struggling with my my throat and chest throughout this one. Anyway, next thing, I'm going to take this image now, not through noise reduction, but straight into a kind of non-linear state. That is to say, I am going to stretch it just using one of my friend Bill Blanchen's HD stretch tools. So in this case, I'm going to use the unlinked tool to apply a stretch to this. I'm just going to now cancel there using the reset button on the SDF. The currently active screen transfer function as well, which was going on as you know, we had a whiteout, of course. So now this is stretched data. I am going to go ahead and use NoiseXTerminator, just again at defaults. If we take a look at the noise profile before and after, you'll really see the magic of this tool. I mean, it's not extremely noisy data or anything like that, but still, it makes features that were previously, you know, kind of getting hard to see, so lost in noise, immediately apparent. As you can see, you know, there are some small structures down here which you can just about make out in the unnoise reduced data, become much more visible after noise reduction. Really wonderful tool. Again, do check those out. Links down below if you'd use those. I'd be eternally grateful to you. Huge thanks to those of you who have used those as well, truly. Next thing for me is going to be going ahead and setting the black point for this. I'm just going to use the histogram tool right here. I'm going to select M31, and I'll just give you a quick talk through what exactly we're looking at. So I'm going to make a preview. Now all this area to the left-hand side of the histogram right here is representing the, you know, the very darkest values in our image. So this back wall just here where my mouse is, that'd be values of 0 or pure black. Over on the right, those would be pure white values, completely saturated. If I take this left-hand pip right here and just drag it across, you can see on the Instagram preview what's happening. You can also see in the preview image what's happening. We're bringing those kind of like the back edge closer towards the bulk of the data and thusly lowering the black point in the image. Now, it's a careful like balancing act thing, this. You don't want to go too far and start clipping into your data, because anything that is on or to the left of this line is going to start to appear as pure black in your image. So if you dive into your main Instagram body at all, you're going to truncate data and it'll look terrible. Equally, if you don't do anything with it, it's going to look kind of washed out in many cases. So there is a little bit of a sweet spot somewhere around here. It's it's somewhat personal preference, but equally, I think there's just a small region of where it looks right, at least for me, and I think it looks right about here. So I'm going to go ahead and set my black point at that, reset the tool, and we're going to move on now to the next steps of processing. So I'm going to go ahead, open up curves in this case, open up a preview, and because we took care of the gradients in this image, we can probably apply a small amount of saturation, and it's just a small amount at this point. It's going to help us with later steps in processing. You don't really want to go crazy with this. Just a little bit will make future steps just a touch easier. And we'll stop at that for a moment. I will now go ahead and pull the stars out of this. Now they've got a tiny bit of saturation applied to them. Using StarXTerminator, generate star image and on-screen stars. Okie dokie. So it's taking the stars out now. We've got the star image and a starless image right there, as you can see. I'm now going to create a mask for this this main body of the image. So I'm going to go to Process, Mask Generation, Range Selection in my case. And just with a preview window made, I'm going to turn on Screening. And I'm going to start dragging the lower limit across until all we've got really visible in this mask is none of this kind of scratchy stuff in the background. In my case, it might look different on your own images. But I just want to go one step beyond where that disappears. So right there, that's good enough for me now. You can see we've got all the faint stuff in the galaxy at that point, but none of the scratchy background stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and ramp up the smoothness. Probably somewhere here. You could just go all the way if you like, to be honest. And now we've got a usable mask for further steps of processing. To apply the mask to our image, I'm just going to drag the identifier right there, just below our identifier on our main image. Make sure the main image is selected. Again, open a preview with curves right there. And we can start to go to work. So, we can identify some problems in the image. If I just bring up the preview window a little bit closer, by selecting RGBK and holding down the left mouse button, we can see the distribution of like the main bodies of the colors in the image. So you can see blue is trailing behind, green and red are ahead, and I would agree with that. The image looks slightly tinted towards greens and kind of brownish colors, with blue very much left behind, as you can see right there. So if I take the blue channel and just choose to boost it a little bit to make up for that, if the preview window would work, if I just boost that blue channel just a little bit, you're going to see what happens if I go back to RGBK now, is it should be much more in line. It's kind of in between the red and the green now. So that's closer to where we want it. Going to go ahead and apply that as a first step. Next up, it's still looking a little bit green to me, so I'm going to go ahead and apply now a touch more blue. But to keep an eye on what you're doing on this, so don't be afraid of, taking many steps to do this. It's just a little bit of a push-pull kind of scenario, and it would be possible, but I think incredibly unwieldy to get done in kind of one movement. So this is my way of doing things. I just like to look at the image and, as I said, just push and pull and get it kind of where I want it in a few different steps. I'm going to take out a tiny tiny bit of green on this right now. You see, if you go too far, you're going to start to bias towards the other colors too much. Really, we're not getting too far off, I would say. So these small movements, what you're looking for, don't be afraid to go back, try again, use a reference. If you want to as well, you can drag a reference image in or have it on another part of ideally the same monitor, where the color calibration is going to be exactly the same. For those of you out there with multiple monitors, you'll know what I'm talking about. An image on one of these screens might look totally different on another one. So do bear that in mind. But now it's time to get close. I mean, how long have I been doing this? And I've been talking through it too. I've got a little bit of practice with it, but it's not been long. I'd say a minute or so at most. I'm going to start to apply a small amount of saturation now. I can really start to see what it is that I'm doing at this point. It makes everything else that bit easier when you can see in kind of super color what's going on. So to me now, it's looking, we can also back this up. It's looking a little bit tinted towards red. So I'm going to push up further now the blues and the greens, and hopefully that should get us just about what we're looking for. So a little bit up on that blue, a little bit up on that green, and I'd say getting on towards a very neutral looking Andromeda right there. Final little move maybe on saturation, bring this up a touch more. Yeah, like that. And now I'm going to make an overall RGBK curves adjustment just to make it kind of leap off the screen a little bit more. So I'm going to increase the brightness overall, you know, with that kind of curve stretch there, and just drop down the S curve very slightly. It's going to make it a bit more vibrant. I like the appearance of that. I actually like the appearance of that second step too, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that. For me, it's quite a natural looking Andromeda at this point. I do like where I've gone with it, even if I do say so myself. But for the sake of this tutorial, I hope you can see what I was doing there. I would strongly advise you take more time than I did and do it slightly more carefully, but just for the sake of demonstration, I think that's a pretty good way of showing it. Now, if I go ahead and use some of these small tools I made, Starless for rescreening on the Starless image, Stars on the Stars image, and then rescreen on any of them. We now have our image of M31 Andromeda with the stars rescreened back in, and I think overall it's a pretty attractive shot. If I just close the rest of this chaff down and we can take a quick look at it together, you can sort of see what we're dealing with. Not too bad, I would say. Not too bad. Moving along, anyway, for the sake of this demonstration, let's get started with the California Nebula. First things first, of course, we took a look with STF on this to see what we were working with. Small gradient, it's always going to be less with these dual band filters, as they do a great job of blocking most light pollution, but still a little bit gets through. Don't know if you can make that out if you just zoom out a bit. Slightly brighter on the bottom than the top. But anyway, first things first for me is going to be BlurXTerminator, and I'm going to apply GradientXTerminator on this right now because I know it's going to throw up a problem for us. It's just a good example of showing you a problem that you might see in your own images and how to get around it. So if I go to Toolbox and run GradientXTerminator now, as I usually would, I'd always try this like very early on in processing. I'm going to create a issue, so it'll have done this whether I did BlurXTerminator first or not, no problem. It's made like this camo pattern, almost like military camouflage or something. It looks extremely strange, and you can see it's kind of negative is present in the main image too, so it has actually effectively damaged our data. If we stretch it now at that point, that would have remained in there, and it's a nightmare to correct. So what I'm going to say to you is, if you start to see that kind of thing in your image, what you need to do is remove and just apply it slightly later when the image is non-linear. So I'll do that right now. If I use this time linked on this, it's gonna look better for dual band data, generally speaking. Do try both, but just for me, I usually find that linked is going to give you the more pleasing image. I can now do that same process of script, toolbox, and GradientXTerminator. And it should do a perfect job this time around, just because the image is now non-linear. And as you can see, that looks a little bit bright, but if I just undo the STF on it, you can see what's been taken out. Very little. And the gradient itself, I just undo the stretch, is gone. You can see the before and the after. It's done an absolutely wonderful job. I'm dead pleased with that. Now, we obviously have some noise in this image, just like before, so we'll choose a quite hard to see region. Let's say this bit of nebulosity right here is kind of buried in noise. I think NoiseXTerminator is going to do a good job of bringing that out for us, excavating it from that background model. And sure enough, hopefully you can see that. This delicate structure just there, suddenly lifted from the sea of noise before and after, really does. It's an eye-opening tool, you know what I mean? It really does a wonderful, wonderful job. Again, do check out those trials at the very least, and just have a look for yourselves and see what you think to these tools. I can't recommend them enough. I think the best way to do it is to just see for yourself. Anyway, next step in processing for me is going to be to go to histogram and set the black point. So I'm going to select the window I want, open a preview, and just like we talked about before, just in the kind of Goldilocks zone, not too far, not too bright. I think it looks quite nice. I'm just going to go ahead, reset the tool, close down that preview window, and we can now apply a small amount of saturation to this. So I'm going to use the curves window, again, open a preview, open the saturation end panel, and just apply a small amount. Again, you could ruin your image really quickly at this phase. It's going to be kind of strong, so just a little bit, I usually find, does the job. If you wanted to use masking and such on this, it would be extremely easy to do. Because let's say if you wanted to get all of the nebula from this, you could just use a red mask and bang. It's going to be like right there. I would take the stars out first, of course, but for me, I'm really not seeing the need to do too much kind of color manipulation to this. I love the appearance of the California Nebula as is, so I'm going to leave it basically alone. I will use StarXTerminator. We generate star image and on-screen stars, of course, ticked. And we'll pull those stars out before we process further. Okie dokie, so that's finished now. I can go ahead, just move to one side the star image right there, and we can work on the main nebula. So one of the main problems I can see with this now is it looks just a little bit flat. It's lacking kind of dynamic range, if you like. The difference between the darkest dark and the lightest light in the image isn't all that big. So I would like to use curves to widen it out, really, and make those differences bigger. So once again, curves tool, this time RGBK, and I'm just going to apply the traditional good old S-curve for this, and hopefully, as you can see, look at that, it's starting to just pop off the screen, no problem whatsoever. You could go pretty neon with this if you liked, and I think it's perfectly acceptable. I think when you're in Nebula land, well, the sky isn't even the limit, is it? You can go as far as you want with these things, and for me, I really like that, and I think this is one of those things where it is kind of just a done in one for me. I really like the appearance of that. I don't think it really needs any further saturation. You could really make it stand out if you did. But overall, I mean, wasn't that quick? That was a really, really, really quick process. But right now, I could go ahead, starless, stars, rescreen, put everything back together, and within a minute or two, we've taken it to way further than Seestar itself would have processed this thing. And like we've got a couple there, I would say, of pretty beautiful images within, well, 20 minutes on my screen. Obviously some time there spent coughing and things like that, so even less than that while talking you through things. Hopefully, anyway, that goes some way to showing you just how easy it is using PixInsight and these tools to get a pretty result, one that's certainly much better than the Smart Telescope's going to put out on its own, as it should be. these tools aren't cheap by any means, and there is a learning curve involved, which I'm trying to help flatten with videos like this. And as I've said before as well, I'm not pretending to be any sort of expert on PixieScience at all, because I'm just quite simply not. But I do like to show people how I process things, because I think I do all right. So hopefully you'd agree and you've enjoyed watching this video. And if you have found it useful at all and enjoyed learning a thing or two with me, then please do leave a like on the video for me. If you don't have these tools and you want to try them out, again, like I say, it must sound like a broken record, but it really helps. Affiliate links down below. Give them a go. I promise you won't regret it. They really are fantastic, fantastic tools. With that, anyway, I will leave you there, and I'll just say I look forward to seeing you in the next one, whenever that is. Hopefully the skies should clear soon. We've had a dreadful start to the year, but it can't last forever. Take care, guys. I will see you in the next one. Clear skies.